Welcome. This is the January 14th, 2025 Jail and Zones call, but we are hijacking it as the Mail and DNS Zones production user call. We have Dan, Antranig, Joshua, Phil, Jan, Dave, Igor, and myself, Michael, so far. And by popular demand, we are discussing jails and, of course, mail hosting, which generally is in a jail or zone in these circles. So there has been a rather important milestone, which is the book Run Your Own Mail Server from Michael W. Lucas. And we have a group of experts, as always, to address this topic. Today we'll have a presentation from Antranig about a stack that he's been using in production. Briefly on the topic of jails, Dave would like to see more feedback on the jail metadata review. He and Igor have been working very hard on that. Thank you, both of you. And here's a pretty picture of this book. It is huge. It is 336 pages of pretty up-to-date information on mail hosting, and Antranig's deployment is similar but different. So we can highlight those differences as we go on. Any questions or requests or agenda items before Antranig launches into his presentation? Antranig, let her rip. I'd love to just hear an overview of what components you use, how you line them up, and, for example, what steps you take to mitigate, say, the challenges of being in a small
Okay.
country without huge popular IP ranges, or challenging, things like spam, etc. So go for it. Share if you like. Cool.
So I will be using a lot of terminal. Great. This is the host for CERT, as in the CERT of Armenia. That's the Computer Emergency Response Team. I got their operations last year, and obviously the first thing to configure was email, because CERTs communicate with email and a lot of PGP. To do that, we ended up using multiple components. A lot of the content here is actually taken from PoolP's website called Setting Up Mail Server with OpenSMTPD, Dovecoat, and RSpamD. That's how the content usually goes. If I'm not mistaken, he is using OpenBSD. I'm using FreeBSD because I prefer FreeBSD. And I am also using everything with jails, more importantly. First thing first, when it comes to email, is your domain and your DNS. More importantly, you want to make sure that your domain has been around for a very long time. If it's less than 30 days old, you're already in a problem. A lot of big vendors are gonna basically flag you for being probably an abuser, probably phishing. So if we have a look at my domain, which is cert.am, it's been around since 2003, so not a major problem for me. The second bit is you need to make sure that you have configured your DNS records. We have the most important one is your MX record. That's your incoming mail server record. So mail exchange, that's what MX stands for. So if we have, and by the way, let me know if the terminal is big or small or anything like that. So if we have a look at CertAM's mail record, MX record, we can see it points to mx0.cert.am with a priority of 10. I prefer to have it, something between 10 and 20. So if something goes wrong, I can inject another mail server with a lower number, which means higher priority, very Unixy. So let's say 5, etc. So that MX record needs to have an A record. So if I have a look at the A record of mx0.cert.am, we can see it pointing to the following IP address, and it also has for a record, which is an IPv6 address. So those are my basic setups on the DNS side. Other than that, we also need to have a TXT record, which is, this has been added in late 90s. This is what we call an SPF record on the server, which says SPF version 1, allow the mail server, that's MX, don't allow anyone else. That's the basic idea, is that allow the mail server, don't allow anyone else, right? So the only person who is allowed to send an email from cert.am is the mail server. right? If you want, you can add other things such as random IPv4. So for example, let's have a look at the government of Armenia as an example. We can see that they allow the mail record, the mail server, an IPv4 address and another IPv4 address, and Zoom go away, Zoom, Zoom go away, damn it, and another IPv4 address, right? So who can send an email from, what happened to my, sorry, weird things are happening to Zoom because, it's just zooming. Speaker, that's correct. A microphone, that's correct. Okay. Confirm you can hear me? Okay, good. So in case of the government of Armenia, the gov.am domain will be okay if it's sent from the following mail server, the following IPv4 addresses, right? So that's the basic idea when when you're configuring your SPF record. That's the second bit. For the third bit, that's the KIM records. We'll go into that in a moment. So stack-wise, what I'm using is, I have a jail. Let's start from there. I have a jail. That's a very bad output. Let's minimize it a bit. Great, much better. So I have a jail called MX0. That's my jail. And this jail has a public IPv6 address for multiple reasons, and it has a private IPv4 address because I only have a single IPv4 address at this location. And what happens here is, on the firewall level, what I do is I do natting. So let's have a look at grep, I want to say 25. Not grep 25, just grep 25. There we go. So all of my traffic that comes in on port 25, port, I want to say, I don't remember what these ports are, it's Jan, what was the flag for numerical dash capital?
The dash S takes an argument. That's why the N isn't processed as numerical. So dash N space and then dash S takes an argument.
Thank you. Oh, that didn't.
You probably want to see the start node, isn't it?
Dash P capital. Okay.
This one right here.
That's the one. Okay. So port 25, that's for SMTP. Port 587, that's for SMTPS, or submission rather. 993, that's for IMAP, and 143, that's also for IMAP. All of those are actually documented in the Etsy services file. 143, as we can see, and also 993, that's for IMAP S. 500, was it 587? 87. There we go. That's for submission. And also 25, as we all know and love, is for, that's a lot of things with 25, by the way, is for SMTP. Great. So those are the ports that I usually forward for IPv4 because I have a single IPv4. You usually, if you have more than one, do the jail magic. And if you have questions, ask in the jail call. So that brings us to the next step. What software do I run? So if we go into the jail itself.
There's some background noise. If everyone could mute, please.
I don't hear it.
Is it from me?
No, I don't think it's from you. I think it's from someone who wasn't muted and there was just noise. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So if I do PKG now audio, so we can see what I run in here. So I have Acme SH, that's for my certificates. Dovecot, that's for IMAP. NSS LDAP, that's for LDAP. We'll go into it in a bit. OpenSMTPD, obviously. OpenSMTPD extras and OpenSMTPD filter or spamd. That's what I use for spam filtration. PAM LDAP, I'll go over that in a bit. Redis. The reason why I have Redis is because I need it for RSpamD, right? You can ignore these two. These are what we use for processing some mail automatically.
So, could you copy
yes.
and paste that into the chat and similar things as you go? Awesome, thank you, such as ports, etc.
I'll copy and paste, but can you do the, formatting?
Yes, of course. No,
Okay.
You can drop it in chat even, whatever works. Yeah.
Okay.
No worries. Just plop it. Fine. Great. Awesome. I'm
Paste.
keeping
Okay.
track there. Oh, I got it. Thanks.
Great. So those are the packages. Let's go with the basic configuration. First off, we have OpenSMTPD itself. That's in user local etc. And I swear to God, I keep forgetting. Is it SMTP? No. Mail. Go on. You can go in there. It's okay. Mail. There we go. smtpt.com. So this is the main configuration file that I have, which basically says we have a PKI, public key infrastructure, for the domain MX cert AM. That's my MX record, with the following certificate and the following key. Great. Next up, we have a proc exec. This is an actual command called OpenSMTPD filter or spamd. If we look into the jail, console MX0, we can see pkg info -l, I want to say OpenSMTPD extras. filter or spamd, we can see that it's actually a binary that lives in a user local libexec OpenSMTPD. So that's the actual command itself. And this does things, basically. It takes an input, does output, whatever it does. So it's a program that's being executed by OpenSMTPD. I have an aliases table, I have a visual aliases table, and I have an LDAP table. For the LDAP, we'll do it later. To the interesting part, I listen on localhost and I pass everything that goes through my localhost to rspamd. The reason why I do this is because I like to use Alpine, the old email client. So that's one of the reasons, or like the mail command directly, right? So it would go to OpenSMTPD and then it would send things over, rspamd. The reason why we do this is when things are going out, we also care about rspamd, not because just inbound, but also for outbound, because when it's going out, rspamd will do the DKIM signatures signing, right, which we haven't gotten into yet. We listen on the external interface, and we filter everything over rspamd. And we also listen on the external interface on port submission. We require TLS. We require the certificate. We require authentication. And finally, we pass it through the filter. The reason why we do this is that people can connect to the server from their laptops, for example, using Thunderbird. So these are the listening actions. We also have actions. These actions is basically, these are action definitions that we can use later, right? So we have an action called local mail, which means put the email in maildir. That's the user's maildir. There is a junk folder. By default, it would be, I think, junk. Then there is a user base called LDAP with a virtual table called valiases. Okay, user base LDAP, virtual table called valiases. If we have a look at the valiases, which is in etc mail valiases, it looks like this. This, by the way, comes by default with FreeBSD. I just copied it from aliases and I made it valiases. The reason why I did that is just in case we modify the valiases file, I don't want to go over the whole, thing then. So valiases. So what do we have here? Well, here we have where things should go, right? For example, daily stuff. This is sent by the FreeBSD mailer daemon, right? It's sent to Ontronic V and CERT. Those are actual accounts. Reports is sent to reports. A report is sent to reports. WordPress is sent to WordPress. Wow, amazing black magic. AV is sent to Ontronic V. A is sent to Ontronic V, right? And here we have Norair is sent to Norair. Inna is sent to Inna. So you have who is receiving, who is it delivered to, right? Who is receiving, who is it delivered to? The delivered to can be comma separated, as you saw here. So if it's coming to CERT, it's going to CERT and Ontronic V, right? So if the email is cert@cert.am, it will go to an account called CERT and also an account called Ontronic V. So it will deliver to two locations. Basically, that's the idea of it. And as you saw, we used the home mail there, which means these users actually have a home in home. And for example, if we go to, say, Ontronic V, we can see that he has a mail there in his home. And we can also, this is what the mail there looks like. We don't care. This is all managed by Dovecot. The new mail is in new, the old mail is in cur, and etc. etc. So coming back to our config, we also have an outbound. The outbound basically does a relay, so just send things outside. Then we do some matching. We say match from any. So if it's sent from anyone, for the domain, cert.am, we do local mail. That's the action that we do. If we do for the domain EVAnswer, because I have two domains, also do the action local mail. And for a match for local, so if it's going locally using MailX or Alpine or whatever, it will also do local mail. And finally, if I'm doing match from any, so anyone on the internet, but they are authenticated, then we do action outbound. Finally, match for any action outbound. So if anyone else comes in, the action is outbound. Of course, it will go line by line. So if you're not authenticated, the last line would not work basically. Also, more importantly, here the last line, because we don't have a from any, it will not assume from any. It will assume from me. So that's why this is not working as an open SMTPD relay, basically, right? Otherwise, if it was match from any for any, it would have become an open SMTPD relay, and people, sorry, it would be an open SMTP relay, and people could have used it to send the spam back and forth. So this is the overall idea of the config file itself. I wonder if I have anything else interesting here. Yes, I do. I have the keys, which we will go over it in a bit. And I have my LDAP. I don't know what I have in my LDAP, but I assume I have something. Yes, I do. Okay. So, and no worries that you can see the LDAP password. This is behind the NAT network, and we change the keys every month anyway. This is my LDAP configuration for OpenSMTPD. Basically, what I do is I use, we have an LDAP 0 local cert.am. This is a local thing. There's a username, there's a password, and there's your base DN, right? So in the base DN, we have users. The reason why I'm using this is pre-configured using LDAP scripts, which is an amazing repository, by the way, of very awesome scripts to manage LDAP. And the way it works is that you would do LDAP LDAP scripts init, and it will configure LDAP for you automatically. Let's see where it is. Here you have, you configure some files, and then you can do like LDAP add user, like that's all you do, and it will create it. So that's the overall process with LDAP. Now, I will not go over LDAP scripts itself, because it's very simple. It's been around for like a decade and a half at this point. You can find documentation about this. But I will share the link so other people can use this one as well.
Trinig, should I later mask out that password?
If you can, sure. If not, it's fine. I mean, it changes automatically anyway.
Okay.
Okay. So back here, right? And then these are LDAP matching that we do. We get the UID number, GID number, home directory, because these are the things that we care about, right? And we also have the credentials filter. We get the user password, which is a hashed password, and it's an LDAP. So when we get the hashed password, we can use it to match that the user has been authenticated properly. That's the LDAP process of that. So this is for sending mail, right? Now you are able to send mail, congratulations, but you also need to read your mail. For that, we have Dovecut. And in Dovecut, what I do have, if I'm not mistaken, should be the simplest configuration ever. We configure the protocols to IMAP. Great. We listen on everything IPv4 and IPv6. Great. And finally, I swear to God, it's somewhere in here. It's in conf probably. There we go. Local, this is the whole thing, basically, right? Here's the mail directory. Again, we tell it that it's using the mail dir format. We have the SSL keys again. We have the password database, which is using LDAP. We'll go over this in a second. And there's the user database. So you have a user database, password database. The user database is derived from password. And the reason for why this works is because for Etsy password, we're using an SSH switch, right? Where we say that it's going to use the password file from files and LDAP. So LDAP is very much tightly integrated into this mail jail. Mail jail. Mail jail. It sounds weird, but I think it's correct, right? Mail jail. Yes, okay. So let's go over these files again. I'll just share them so Michael can paste them. I'll just do the whole thing. Great. Maybe somewhere in here. There we go. And we also have the Dovecot LDAP extensions. This is basically the same. Let me try doing some stupid regex black magic where we do E, V, anything starting with that. Much better, yes. I think I can just do sort. There we go. And also delete all of the empty lines. So this, that. There we go. Okay, great. Copy. Now pasting in Google Docs, that's actually dangerous. Just kidding. Wait. Change me, obviously. Yes. Okay. So, I think I did forget the OpenSMTPD config. Am I right? User local, let's see, mail, cat, SMTPD conf. Yep, that's a very basic one. No confidential information there. And we finally have the, I hate when Google does that. Damn it. Wait, let me try pasting. Much better. Okay. And we also have the LDAP one, which is this. God damn it, Google. Okay. Change me. Okay. So yeah, that's the overall idea. So we can send, we can receive, and then we come to the fancy bit, which is RSpamD. For RSpamD, what did I change? I swear I don't remember. Yeah, I do. It should be in local. There we go. I added the Kim signing, cat the Kim signing. And the process here is that for the domain, cert.am, there is a key, okay? And the key has a selector. The selector is 2024-04, which means if we have a look at the TXT record at 2024-04 dot, I want to say domain key dot cert dot am, we should see a very long TXT record. What this is the public key that's derived from the private key of the key that we are passing to RSpamD. Okay? Very basic public key infrastructure stuff. We have a private key, we get the private key, we get the public key of that, we put the public key in our DNS record. The format is the selector dot underscore domain key dot your domain, right? So the way this works is that if you are sending an email, you must have the KIM, especially if you're sending to someplace like Google or whatever. You must have the KIM, which means the selector is in the email headers, okay? And then the mail is signed with that the KIM key, and then Google verifies it because they can see the public key that's on your DNS. And if everything is verified, it would pass as that it's not spam. Now, of course, the scammers can easily find your selector, and they can use the selector in the header, but it would not work because they don't have your private key to sign the mail content, right? So that's why it works. Again, very basic public key infrastructure stuff. Make sure your private key is private. That's something that I will not share, by the way, today. So it's not a random string, reconfiguring that is going to be a whole other process. In PoolP's settings, he also adds the mark, which I do have. If we have a look at dig the mark.cert.am, we can see we have, not a TXT record. We can see the following. The mark is a format for reporting if something went wrong. What happens is servers can implement the mark. So like if someone sent an unconfigured, non-properly configured mail to, let's say, our good friend Ruben, who uses Fastmail, right? And Fastmail is gonna see that this is a phishing attempt. Someone is trying to impersonate me. How do they know that? Because the SPF record doesn't match, and the email is not signed properly with the KIM, right? What they're gonna do is they're gonna reject the email, and then they're going to send a report to the following email addresses. Okay? So it's going to send a report to themarkreports@cert.am. When the mark reports, if we have a look into the mark reports, I will get an XML file saying that Fastmail received an email from some random host where the SPF or the KIM, or in this case, because it's a very bad phishing attempt, both of them are not valid. So it's a way to stop spam mails and malicious mails if you have everything configured properly, right? It's a reporting mechanism, more importantly. And of course, there are companies who automate that work for you. For example, there's Easy the Mark. This is not a sponsorship. It's just the company's founder is my friend, actually, which you would set their the mark record, and then they will process everything for you and then let you know once a month if something went wrong with your emails. So yeah, that's the overall idea of using the mark. It's a single line of TXT record under underscore the mark dot your domain, right? So that's the basic setup. For the SSL stuff, for the key stuff for the KIM, I'm pretty sure that there is a command in here for generating the key, or did rspamd generate it automatically? There we go. Here's a command, right? OpenSSL generate RSA, you give it the key, it would generate it, and then you would do RSA in and then public out. It will generate the public key. This is what you're going to put in your DNS record. I know it sounds long, it looks long. As a matter of fact, if you're doing everything properly, it should be long. So for example, if I go to my DNS server, which is also in a jail, no, it's not. Or is it? Yes, it is. Jailer console DNS 0. User local, let's see. In case you are using user local, what happened to you, buddy? Am I not using you? I'm not user local. Wait a second. I'm not, yes. So in case you're using, for example, bind, you will notice that domain key in any of these zone files, you will notice that it's so long that you might need to split it in two halves. Like you would go 1, 255 characters, and then 2, the rest of the key, because it's very long. The output from OpenSSL, that's what it is, basically, right? For some reason, it keeps starting with MIG. Jan, if you know cryptography and can explain to me why every private key starts with MIG, I would love to know. Or in my case, it's MIB, apparently. Yeah, okay.
It's not really
It's
a
the same as
cryptography
SSH.
question. It's a question of encoding formats. You have to
Okay.
have certain type level value encodings at the beginning. It's just the
I
serialization
see.
format.
I
Like,
see.
why does
Okay.
every JSON object start with open braces?
Okay, got it. Nice. So, okay, you have that. It's too long. If you're using bind, just keep that in mind. If the bind server is complaining to you, giving, errors and such, that's the reason. Just to split it in two halves. Take the first part with 255 characters and then the second part, and you'll be fine for your bind if you're using bind. Other DNS servers, I don't know. I don't use any other. So Now we have kind of all of the parts together, right? So when an email is coming from the outside, it will touch OpenSMTPD, which will pass it to our spamd, and then our spamd will do the email filtration that it needs, and then it will pass it back to our OpenSMTPD, and then OpenSMTPD is going to put it in your mail directory in your home. And then when you're reading email, you're connecting to Dovecot, and then Dovecot will authenticate you using LDAP. And then from that, it will basically just, show you your email inbox. That's the whole idea, at least. Last bit is that our spamd does actually have a, what do you call that? A user interface, which I want to show it to you, but I am VPN'd for that. Can I pause my screen share? Yes, I can. Great. I'm going to try to connect to the VPN because the RSpamD stuff and LDAP and everything is behind the network. It's not public. And I'll try to show the RSpamD interface for you as well. Where is it? Where is it? I swear to God, I manage tunnels. Yes. Oh, great. Thank you. Cert, yes. Are you redirecting all of my traffic? No. Okay, great. So I'm going to do edit and then activate the VPN. Don't do on demand. That's fine. Activate. Let's see if it's working. Seems to be working fine. Now I can do resume. Is my screen visible? I hope. Yes, mx0.cert.am, some port that it has, and then there's a password. This is what our spamd looks like as a web interface. So these are the emails that I got, which required no action. Some emails required gray listing. So it's like, let's see if the spam comes again, if it does, we'll block it. If it's not, maybe it was valid. And then the 10%, which is 4,697 emails got rejected from the outside world. It's like, oh, this is definitely spam. We're throwing it out. There's some throughput in here, so you can see the things that are happening in your network, etc. Reject, soft reject, etc. There are some configuration. Honestly, I've never changed anything. I'm just using the default as is. Haven't had an issue. This also can be clustered, by the way. If you want to do cluster setups in the future, those can be clustered. More importantly, what I like is the history, so I can see what's happening, right? So I got an email which was like, no action. This is all valid. We can, pass this email. This one, for example, got rejected for some reason, right? It's like whatever the reason is, it got actually rejected. So it works fine. Haven't had an issue. 222. Congratulations to the authors. And then again, this one also got rejected for some reason. So you can see a lot of things. This is, for example, the Cert of Luxembourg, which they have everything configured properly. It also flagged it as encrypted PGP because they have a PGP file in there for their PGP encrypted stuff. It's processing a lot of things in the mail to make sure that everything is valid, right? This one is from Baron something. It's probably spam. I mean, this is a spam, either enlongment advertisement from the 90s or a Nigerian prince who wants to sell you things. So it got rejected, right? So those are all working very much in a very proper way. So yeah, that's the overall idea of how it works. And if you do get spam, you can use the scan learn option to teach it. I haven't done this in a while. Daniel does this very well, by the way, our Daniel Belhive. He's been
Fuzzy. Yeah, Fuzzy's better than Fuzzy's even more specific than Bayes. So if you're getting a lot of spam, check out the Fuzzy feature. And our spamd does provide public fuzzy scanners, which is just a little. It's just more specific to nasty pattern emails and catches them quicker than Bayes does.
Nice. Do you have the configs for those, or is it hard to configure?
I hired a guy, so I'll have to dig through my configs a little bit, but it is built in and well documented. But I have scripts to feed like a mailbox of this is really junk, and that it does get, if I do that, you can feed it like just 2 or 3 patterns and it'll immediately start blocking everything that looks like that. Yeah, I can dig up some of that and I'll add it to the doc.
Okay, thank you. There's also a feature where our spamd is also learning from the junk, right? There is an automatic process that's happening between OpenSMTPD and RSpamD with the filter that they're using, right? There's also another one where when the user clicks on the spam button and it goes to the spam folder, it would learn from that as well. I haven't configured that. I'm going to do that this summer because we're not getting that many spam on anyways, right? And whatever comes to spam, it will, it will just maybe 10 minutes later, it will appear into the spam folder because, it got gray listed, then it actually got rejected. So it's just moving everything there. So that's the overall inbound and outbound process that we have. And I've been happy with this. My home setup is basically this without LDAP and without our spamd because I like actually receiving spam. I just reply to them and spend a bunch of their time and they start promising me gold. And as long as they're not scamming some grandmother in Florida, I'm happy. So, just wasting their time. That's the overall setup with jails in a single jail, basically, in this case. For the LDAP part, like I said, the LDAP script's a very good place to start. I knew nothing about LDAP when I started. Now I can easily use it with the LDAP scripts. They're very much, in exactly the way that you would need them, basically. I think this was too much information. Any questions?
Perfect. Is that
Perfect,
GUI
okay.
an add-on to RSpamD or is that
No, this is
project?
part of it.
No,
This is
great.
part of it.
There are a number of questions I've put in the doc. If people want to own them, go for it. Actually, I'll just go down them. Dave early on had a question. Why no backup MX for cert.am, MX record?
So that's a good point. We don't have a backup server at the moment. We are running off of a single server. Yes, it's terrible that the sort of the country is on that, but we like funding. If you'd like, you can donate using PayPal.
Insert link here. There you go.
No, that's the goal this year. Is we kind of got our own /24. We don't know how we're going to split it between two ISPs at the moment, kind of, because like you can't advertise less than /24. So we'll see how the BGP part goes. And the goal is going to be that MX0 is going to be over one ISP, MX1 is going to be over another ISP. Probably actually is going to be kind of in the same data center for now until we figure out, maybe we'll have another data center that we can have a backbone. Again, this is a sort of the country, but it is actually a volunteer project by the community at the same time. So no backups at the moment. No backup mail servers, at least at the moment, but we do have backups.
Dave, do you want to jump in with the question you just posted? The DKIM DMARC?
I can read it out. Yeah.
please.
So when I implemented, I can't remember if it was DKIM or DMARC now, but it's the one where you get a summarized report back from the big mail companies about what you were supposedly sending. It was more work than not, and obviously my setup is tiny, like 2 users, maybe 5.
Yeah, that is indeed DMARC. But it only works if the other end supports it, right? So like Fastmail added DMARC. So if someone sends an email from the cert server to Fastmail and or someone sends a phishing to Fastmail trying to be cert AM at the same time, right? Then Fastmail is going to report it back to me, right? Saying, and not only the failures, it can also report the successes. So if we go to, let's go to the home directory of DCAM, DMARC, DCAM, what the hell is DCAM? DMARC reports, home DMARC, where does it go to? See, it's probably not an actual address. Etsy, mail, aliases grep DMARC. DMARC reports goes to me and cert. Okay, that's a good place to know. So if I go to the cert directory, that probably has much less mail, and we can do a mail there. Let's see, capital letters. How hard could they be? Okay, and probably let's do the mark. I want anything with a title of subject of the mark, by the way. That's the idea, at least. I wonder if they have a standard subject. Excuse me while I pause my screen, because I know that I have a lot of emails like that. I just don't know what the subject looks like. So yeah, that's the one. For example, my friend, he founded a company called EasyDMark, which what they do is they receive those, what do you call that? reports, and then they would basically let you know in like a weekly thing or a monthly thing of what happened. Okay, it has a report ID at the top. That's good to know. Maybe I can do resume. Let's try that again. I want to say report ID. There we go. So we have some from Google. We have some from anyone else. Mail.ru even. Sure, why not? There is someone who is sent it. I have no idea who that is. So a lot of providers will email you a lot of those kind of information. I like the one that was from Fastmail. That was very, very nice the way that they sent it, which I'll just open it up here. One sec. Back here, resume. Wow, this resume button is actually useful. So this is the one from Fastmail. They said this is a DMARC aggregate report for CERT-AM, submitted by Fastmail, generated using, this is a Perl script, by the way. That's a most common DMARC parser at the moment. 1 records, 1 passed, 0 failed. It means all of them have passed. It has a it looks like an XML file, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have this. Yeah, exactly. It's a zipped XML. Let's put that on my desktop. And if we have a look, desktop, the cat is what I should do, I guess, to, what was the file name?
I hope you're not getting
there we go.
every mail message.
Right. Oh, terrible.
No,
terrible.
you don't get one per message. They're
Good.
aggregated.
Oh, thank God. Yes.
Cat, Fastmail. Oh, there we go. And this is what it would look like is that, okay, organization name, reports, that's them. This is for extra contact info. This is the report ID, the date of the reports, right? So this is from, let's see, 3/6 to 3/6. So this is around a day of data, apparently. Sorry, a week of data, apparently. The domain, and then these are my configuration. Then they see that these are my policies, right? I allow, this is what I have in my SPF record and all of that. And finally, they would say, oh, okay, so we got an email like, okay, this is SPF, and the KIM is, all of those are actually passed. Here's the selector that I use for my DKIM, also passed. So everything is passed. So this is what the XML is. But what big companies do is that they collect this information and they just show it to you in a fancy UI. That's all they do. So yeah, that's the overall idea of the KIM, at least. Also the mark, and I like it. It's a good way to know if someone is trying to send a phishing, pretending to be you, which has happened to us before. As a
So
cert,
that's
it's
the big
very
win for you there is seeing not just pass, but all of a sudden like 5,000 emails. Right. Yeah, that's definitely useful. Right.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yes. I wonder if we can figure it out by the size. I don't know, because I don't do this. My team actually does this. ls-orgs. Let's see if any of them have a large. What? Oh, sure. Of course. No idea why, by the way. I would say that. Sure. Let's see if it works. Okay. No such file director. What do you mean? Oh, because I'm grepping. Oh God, I apologize. That was a very dumb thing to do. I want to say God Unix. I love you. Okay, this is great. Xorgs, ls-l. Now it should work. There we go. Is any of them large in size?
Pretty consistent.
No, not
I have
really.
LS sort by
Not really.
size, but they're all about a few kilobytes. Like one is 5K.
Yeah, the top one is 5K, by the way. Maybe that one has something interesting. I don't know. Maybe it does. Who is this from? Also Fastmail. No, nothing interesting. No, unfortunately. Yeah, probably the team cleaned things up. Yeah. So that's the overall idea, at least, of the mark. It's nice. I don't look at least my team. What we do is like, let's just send it to the cert, at cert, where we have like all of our archives of email. Like as you see, everything is in new. Like we've never logged into this account per se. over IMAP. This is just like an archival place. We just put everything there and we go over it like once a year or something. Yeah. Sorry, next question, if there was any.
There are definitely more questions. So broadly, how capsicumized is all of this?
No idea.
None of it is. It was my thinking, looking at a lot of this stuff, like we pipe stuff from one tool into another. That's a really nice use case for capsicumizing things, especially when it's in such a hostile facing territory.
Yeah. I might have
you have to,
left out one part, is that after you install auto grep LDAP, after you install these two packages, NSS LDAP and PAM LDAP, you will need to configure user local etc NSS LDAP conf as well as PAM. Well, PAM doesn't need anything as far as I remember. Just NSS LDAP conf. Yeah, so like the same thing would happen here, right? You would configure the host, the base, the DN, the username, the password, and all of that, right? So that's the idea of it, right? So here, if I can't see when it's up there. If I do ID on Tronic V, there is no Tronic V in this jail, but it's in LDAP. So I would see on Tronic V from the, basically, yeah, that.
What
right?
was that config
So,
file? Just for
user local etc NSS LDAP conf. There might be one more. Actually, let me check. Grep LDAP. There is NSS LDAP conf. And there is LDAP conf, just pure. It's the same config file, by the way, just FYI. One of them is used by PAM, the other one is used by NSS. For NSS, you have nsswitch.conf, which is, this is the only thing that you would add, right? Passwords is from files and LDAP. And the other one is in etc PAM. Yes, PAM. Here we would have grep LDAP. Here we would have the SMTPD, authentication sufficient, libpam, and then we have LDAP. That's why we had driver equals LDAP in the Dovecot configuration, right? This. So that's the overall idea. Let me paste
no.
this as well. No, yeah, you're right. We have driver equals password.
If
right?
you said with the Dovecot to authenticate via LDAP, it directly connects itself. It does neither go through NSS nor through PAM. And it's even its own SUSL provider. So, yeah, for things like OpenSMTPD or Postfix or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in the mail ecosystem, you also find SUSL authentication instead of other protocols.
And you read my mind. It would be great to have those paths and the key config changes. Thank you, rock and roll.
What else? By the way, 90% of the things are documented in package message, PKG info-d. So like when a package is installed, they will let you know this is the file that you would need to modify. Like I basically went into all of this blind and came up with a functioning mail server.
Nice.
Did we cover anything that's missing? Yes, we did, but can we leave this out of the recording, Michael?
Just one sec.
Sure.
Maybe hold on to it or drop it in chat. I try not to edit too much after the fact, but is it anyway? Let me make a quick note here. Note the package messages. Okay, they are helpful. Let's go down the list of questions there. Are helpful. Going back to questions, thanks to the configs. Broadly from, I believe, Dan, should LDAP scripts be a port, or is it so simple that it does not need that?
Port anything you can. I mean,
yeah, okay. So
if it's something that's going to ever get updated or there's a bug in it, you want it to be a port. You don't want to be sending in scripts.
Antranig, your thoughts as a user?
Sorry, about what? I was reading the chat.
Making an LDAP scripts port.
It is in ports.
It is. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I remember I did PKG install.
Actually, let me scroll down. It's right on the screen there.
Jailer console LDAP 0, PKG no auto. There you go, LDAP scripts.
Oh,
And it would
was-
automatically install, Open LDAP and all of that. So
oh, it wasn't in your output there. Is import. Okay, so
that's a
there's
different
that.
jail. The LDAP is
Got
indeed
it.
in a different jail. Yeah.
Good point. Here's Daniel. Okay, while Daniel's typing up his question, and Anshnik, do you still have more to share on screen, or do you want to jump into that slightly sensitive thing and I pause the recording?
I'll keep the last bit just for the ending. If anyone has
Okay.
any other questions, good. If not, I hope the presentation was helpful. It's not the
It's very
perfect setup,
helpful. Yeah, well,
but it's a working setup. It's like it's good
Yeah,
enough.
interesting.
so I know
I'd want-
Levi will ask, when would one want to front this with DNS exit so that a third party is handling the massive inbound and uptime guarantees, you name it?
Right. So one thing I did leave out, thank you for reminding me, is in an ideal world, you also want to have a PTR record, right? So if I do, let's say, dig, I don't know, bsd.am looks to this IP address. If I do dig-x, that IP address, the PTR record points to, where is my PTR record? One sec. Oh, serve fail. That's not what I wanted. 130. That's for some reason is not working. Do that. There we go, BSDIM, right? So BSDIM points to an IP, the IP points back to BSDIM, right? So if you can have this, it's perfect. That's number one. Number two is what I'm going to say after the recording. So if those two cases are covered for you, great. If they are not, which means you have everything configured and you're still going to spam, there's a large chance that your static IP address, the whole block is blacklisted. That's a very common problem because what a lot of the blacklist operators do, they don't block a single IP, especially if it's a residential IP. They might block the whole /24, right? And you're just screwed because of your bad neighbors, right?
Right.
There's a tip for that, but that one is for later. But if you have that problem, go use a third-party SMTP relay. Most of them don't even keep the email if you're afraid for privacy, just for the sane reason that's like it's expensive to keep all of that data. Why would they? But some of them do. They might be an NSA front or something. So choose wisely. We have heard of that before. So yeah. Remember when the Spanish hacker was running an open proxy, and then turns out half of the people who were connecting to his proxy were Russian mafia, and he's like, "Hey, how can I find people who care about privacy? Well, let's run an SMTP relay." So yeah.
Okay. Daniel had a question. Recommendations for outbound MX providers. Spam makes me sad, and our spam-D needs a bit of maintenance.
Oh, I meant inbound and
Inbound?
outbound. So
Oh, inbound is nice.
outbound,
Go ahead.
outbound, I've used Amazon SCS, which is which works pretty well for especially large volume and stuff, and everybody is forced to accept it to some degree because it's Amazon. But inbound in particular, are there I mean, I used to be able to find organizations that did serious spam filtering and were friendly to a self-hosted mail setup, and I can't really find everything. Everything's either enterprise or ultra large volume, but something in the sub $1,000 range where somebody could help with help with filtering spam. I mean, our spam-D does a really great job, but it does need some tuning and training.
Is that what you mean by maintenance? Like it's up to the user, or you feel the upstream has some issues?
Yeah, so so phishing and AI mail and stuff like that, it gets to be pretty hard to block. And I do pay for Spam House, which is one of the I don't know if I missed the part in the call if you guys talked about DNSBLs, but you can block people by IP, which is great. But a lot of these things are now coming from Outlook.com, Microsoft, Google, Yahoo. Like they're coming from big providers that I can't block. So it's only up to the pattern, and I'm at the mercy of the pattern as LLMs get better and better at writing garbage. So the time the time to kill it is getting tighter, which means that even though I only support, I think less than 200 users, it is quite a bit of work to do it, and my users will not train it themselves. I don't work with those types of people. So I would just pay somebody to like
Yeah.
give me a beefy RSpamD,
Yeah.
right?
So at the first step, as a cert, we couldn't do that because of regulations. Like we couldn't, because like sometimes we get an email from NATO, saying, and like we can't let those emails go to a third party. Most of the time they can't even read it though. I mean, if the sender is smart enough, they would, PGP encrypted. But that being said, we did have a look. We couldn't find anything that was reasonably priced. Like for a community project, we're like, can we pay someone $500 a year and be done with this? We were not able to find anything for the inbound. That being said, also, we have a whole project insert whose literally only job is to report to Outlook and Google phishing emails. It's like, hey, this user is sending phishing emails. Like we kind of had to create that. If they're targeting Armenian language speakers, it means it's terrible out there. Like it's really terrible out there. But no, we couldn't find anything. It's kind of a sad place, and I don't know what to do for the inbound one. The enterprises are lucky because they can use a lot of things.
Yeah,
But not.
Barracuda and Proofpoint. Yeah, so about getting your email, did you guys talk about getting your email system blessed, your IPs blessed, and the
Yeah,
process? Yeah.
have the domain for at least 30 days, and for the IP one, not yet, but I'll go over that after the call.
Yeah, I fight with I have a whole list, and then I fight with all the providers. And Microsoft, people say Microsoft will never do it, they'll do it. You just have to be persistent, and they'll let you send the mail.
That's really the most frustrating thing, is that the email sort of market, for want of a better word, has shifted from being small providers being sloppy to now the large providers, which you can't not do business with, are the main routes for garbage mail. Really, really frustrating.
Protection racket by an oligopole.
Absolutely, protection racket. 100%. I agree with that.
Because they are so big, you cannot blacklist them for abusing their position. Yeah.
Daniel, any points on Cyrus? You had a cute comment there.
Oh, it's identical to Dovecot.
At this point.
Dovecot has a much more robust community project. I wouldn't recommend anybody starting today to use Cyrus. I will say that they are I don't know if funded or the Fastmail people develop it.
Yeah.
So it is a perfectly reasonable option. They have lots of cutting edge features, some interesting built-in things, and they're working on some very interesting evolutions. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend anybody use Cyrus. But it's great if you have 1 million users. It's fine.
Cool.
Hooks into 1 million different search engines. It's great for writing your own email compliance backend.
At a government agency, we learned that if you're doing single server, go with Dovecot. If you're doing multi-server, so like you're clustering, go with Cyrus. Because Cyrus clustering, as soon as you paste the configs properly, it just works magically and it does everything for you. We learned that for the clustering part. But I think if you are in this call, so like running your own mail server, most people I think are going to go like, single mail server in your house. Mine is literally here. I can kick my mail server when it doesn't work properly. So I like that.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement. As an obsessive Cyrus user, I'm still 100% in agreement with that. In fact, I use Dovecot for my for my company's mail server. I just use Cyrus for a lot of different other purposes and some clients.
Philip had a question. Why are you creating real Unix accounts for Dovecot? And it elaborated virtual accounts with regular shell login, etc.
Yeah, right. So you don't need to use the aliases table. You cannot use it. So like your LDAP or Unix users will be your only users. The reason why I needed the virtual accounts table is because we have a scenario where we have, let's say, a team working on a specific project, like proj0. All of the mail going to proj0 at cert.am need to go to those 4 people. It's poor man's mailing list. Let me put it that way. It's poor man's mailing list, basically. That's why we do the visual accounts one. And for the Unix accounts, well, we don't do Unix accounts. What we actually do is LDAP. I like LDAP for that reason. In an email context, is that there are no actual users, just an LDAP table. At the same time, that same LDAP table is being used currently by Collabora beta testing and Nextcloud and WordPress even, right? So like everything is connected to that LDAP and it just works magically, basically.
It works the same with Active Directory, by the way, just FYI. So if you already have an Active Directory domain and want to run your own mail server, you can use that as your LDAP backend.
Thanks. I must have misinterpreted.
So
Oh, sorry, I must have misinterpreted. I thought they had home directories.
They do have home directories. Yes, they do have home directories, but not Unix accounts. Yes, it can be anywhere else. It could be like var mail on Tronic V, right? As long as you give the path to SMTPD and dovecot for putting in the mail and reading the mail, then it will work fine. So yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, sorry. I just ended up using the home because it's LDAP and we don't have actual Unix accounts anywhere for users. Everything is LDAP. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do the MNT LDAP. Sorry, MNT home for LDAP users and home for local users. We used to do that for like 10 years in other infrastructures. I'm like, no, everyone is on LDAP now and everything is on home. And in some places, home is just mounted over NFS. Like I'm just done with the local accounts thing. The network is the computer, by Sun Microsystems. So.
Yes. Okay, so that was excellent. Do you want to pause briefly for your insider info that hopefully we can sanitize for the group?
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Sure.
pause recording. There will be a brief break here.
This meeting is being recorded.
Go ahead, Dave.
And Michael, before you
Yes.
continue, can you open up I'll send it to the chat, this link? I assume it will work.
Let's see. Okay, just one sec. Copy. I will, what will I do? I'll hijack something.
Yeah, I think it worked. There you go. That's my score. That's my actual score with the current setup. So the one that's weird is the third one. You are not fully authenticated. The reason for that is my ISP at the data center sucks, just like every other ISP, and the PTR record got removed. So I just emailed them a couple of days ago to add it back again. But like everything else is fine. So it's like maybe something went with the DNS. You know, DNS, sometimes it's always DNS. So it's like just great, yellow instead of red, basically, right? So yeah, that's the overall idea of it.
Okay, Dave, you have a few points to bring up.
Yes.
Yeah, so SendMail is slowly but surely getting removed from FreeBSD, despite the protestations of its author, who said it should have been gone decades ago. And DMA is the replacement. And DMA I found is quirky. Its main thing is it's super small, so it's in base, great. When I use it with Fastmail, it works fine. For like 2 or 3 boxes, but Fastmail imposes increasingly draconian email limits. And what happens is all my cron jobs kick off at midnight, and there's a cluster of mail coming into Fastmail, admittedly to send to myself. It's not like I'm spamming anyone. And then they get blocked, and DMA generates another mail to root to say that it couldn't send the mail to root. And the problem compounds really, really, really quickly, which is just super frustrating. Can't see mail because it got blocked. It's a massive foot gun. So there's two things here. I've tried a bunch of alternate providers and none of them is really set up for this. And I really don't want to set up my own email system to get 15, 20 emails a day that just need to be filed for compliance purposes. But it's super frustrating. So there's really two parts to this. One, does anyone have anything they can recommend that is basically free or close to it? And two, people who know more about mail, my reading of the SMTP protocol, at least as of 35 years ago, is that it doesn't need a sender address. So what I'm seeing from some suppliers is they receive the mail, there's no sender address, so they assume, well, that's the same thing as an empty one, which is not the same thing. And then they reject it. So, yeah. Anyone found something that works for a handful of mails, or will I end up having to set up my own system, which I used to do 20 years ago, and now I don't have any time for?
Same here.
What
Go
you
ahead,
can
Jan.
do is you run a local postfix server and relay through it and have it rate limit outgoing messages.
Yeah, that's so. Then I run one postfix server, and all my boxes send to that through some sort of
and it
door.
would only it could either be configured more or less like a smart host, or which is documented in the FAQ, or you could relay it and claim that okay, this is local traffic, and then
I just make it
do
a
rate
smart
limited.
host. It's just basically everything to root. That's it. There's nothing else. But I don't want to have to go around and install postfix in every box. So I can use postfix as a smart host.
Well,
set it up on my VPN network only, so it doesn't accept external traffic, and then the boxes just consent to that. Yeah, that's not a bad solution.
That, or you can use SPIPE-D.
Yeah,
and then have a local Unix socket to relay into.
How would that work? Because does mail get submitted to a socket, does it?
Depends. You can have an LMTP server or whatever. You have so many options. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Or with something like SPIPE-D, or you would just have a it would basically be a Unix stream socket to Unix stream socket proxied via encrypted TCP connections.
Dave, there's also another option. Remember the virtual mail table that I showed? What you can do is you can also send it to a command, right? That's how we used to do proc mail back in the day for like old school spam filtering and stuff like that. You can send it to a command, and that command, what I would do actually, now that I'm thinking about it for all of my GLs, is I would send a post request to a locally running Elixir application, which would just get that mail and put it in a directory and done. For if it's for archiving purposes, that sounds like a reasonable thing to do, I guess.
Cron jobs and periodic. Those are the only things that I still have to actually send mail.
Because I think I would do that, or like I would send it to over proc mail methodology to like Splunk or something, if I wanted just for archiving purposes.
Yeah, because the end goal for this is I use Greylog, and I'm not super happy with Greylog. Actually, I'm really happy with Greylog, the interface, but it requires me to run OpenSearch, which I hate with a passion. So all I really want to do is get it into that, and then I can forget about it. So I don't quite follow this thing where I just send it to a socket. What actually do you mean by that? But because both of you said it as an option, I don't quite follow. So at the moment, I've got cron, and all it knows how to do is run whatever it is, user bin mail.
So I think I might have the shortest path to a solution. There's a directive in DMA called defer. You can enable that, and then you could just have another cron job to flush the queue at a random sleep interval or something like that. And then you just have the cron step, and then the actual sending step would be separate.
Right.
Then you just flush the queue at whatever sort of you can do like a random sleep or whatever, and then that's going to then there's no
It's a
risk that you're
server
going to bump
loadout.
into yourself.
Yeah, I could do it like every whatever, arrange them so it's every 15 minutes or some sort of hash across the servers. That's an option. Yeah, I've not got
Dave,
lots of servers, so
Dave, I'm also a Fastmail user, and I'm paying for the service. I didn't hear whether or not you are.
I
And
am.
I send
Yeah,
about 3 messages every night at 3 a.m.
but how many mails are you sending? Like for how many boxes? Because it's fine with 3. It's not fine with whatever I got, like 14, 15 at the moment. I get production one.
Probably it's probably from 35 different hosts, but they
All right,
get
you're
it
right.
sent through different places. Like all the jails send to the jail host,
Yeah.
and then the jail host sends those out.
Are you
Dan,
doing
is that documented in your blog?
Probably with DMA. If you
Yeah.
search for DMA,
Thank you.
it talks about how it sends it to the jail host. But I occasionally do get blocked or throttled messages. I haven't seen those messages in a while lately, and I'm just wondering if it's a difference in the Fastmail service.
Let me just have a look today and see how many are blocked on these ones. This is 7 prod systems here, and I need to load my SSH keys, don't I?
And are you sending to port 25 or are you sending to say 587?
It's the legit thing,
Like
587, encrypted TLS, all the good stuff. Yeah, the
okay.
config
So you're submitting
mail
as an authenticated user.
Yeah, so I've got like 30, 40 mails backed up on each system because of this.
Right now?
Dave,
Yeah.
it may even help if you just use one common source IP address outgoing.
Yeah, the thing I
Could just
kind of
be
want
that they
to
don't
avoid is
want you sending from too many client source IP addresses because they consider that suspicious.
yeah, but the main thing that I see is that they say you're sending too many message. This one actually is not with Fastmail at the moment because I was having trouble with it. But the same problem remains is that mail is kind of the last resort of a server that's having trouble, and sending it all through one central spot kind of goes against what I like as a system. And I do have other ways of monitoring stuff, so maybe I should just suck it up. Install a
What are the
Postgres.
messages you're getting?
What
are the messages?
That's what this one is. So this one here is, where is this going to? This is a Scaleway one.
No, DMA cannot fetch mail. DMA is outgoing only. It's a replacement for send mail on a host that only sends mail, never receives mail.
Thanks for
Yes, all I get here is cannot parse email content, malformed email. And it's not malformed, it's just that the email envelope contains no sender from DMA. DMA doesn't add a sender. And so this system is rejecting it. That's kind of annoying as far as I can tell. Yeah, and then what happens in my system is it sends a message to itself, which then gets put on the queue, which then gets blocked, and it just goes round and round in stupidity. So long story short, what I'm missing from DMA is more options. Not a lot of more options. But I had a look at the code and ran away crying. It's not easy to see.
Can't you set the -F to have it set a sender in your mailer.conf?
The other thing, oh wait, no.
I've never used mailer.conf. So I can.
So, David, this is just an email from a cron job, right?
Yeah, I've got
And in
cron,
cron job
cron,
you
and
can set
periodic.
a destination.
Sorry, Dan.
Just 1 second. I want to be reading something so I know that I'm talking the right thing. I know that within a cron job, within a cron tab, to differentiate between a cron job, but in a cron tab, you can say mail to equals dan@langell.org. Are you using the mail to directive? Because that may give you a leg up.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
you're
recipient,
saying,
not the sender.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm not using. This is just an Etsy cron tab, is it? I'm not using anything at all in yet.
Okay, that's something different. Then if it's an Etsy cron tab thing, in aliases, are you defining root? Etsy
No.
mail aliases?
Yeah, it still goes to root. It just doesn't get off the server, which kind of it's the DMA problem.
Well, no, it should still be able to go. Well, in Etsy mail aliases, root for me is defined as dan@langell.org.
Yeah, right. I've got that thing, root at blah blah blah, wherever it needs to go. So the mail submission from cron or periodic works correctly with DMA. I've been using DMA for ages. The problem here is what DMA does. So I've got some suppliers who rate limit, so that's not much help. And I've got others where they say that the format is not correct. And they're right that the field is missing. They're wrong in that it's still RFC compliant from what I can see. Yeah.
Sure, just because you're RFC 821 compliant doesn't mean your messages will be received by anyone today.
Sure, that's yeah. Well, so Fastmail will accept the message, but rate limits. Scaleway rejects the limits, but doesn't rate mail. Doesn't rate limit me, and it's very frustrating. I think I'll try Daniel's suggestion of using defer and seeing if I can squeeze past Fastmail that. And if that doesn't work, I'll have to set up a postfix.
But you're saying it's a deformed email. You're saying Fastmail is saying it's a deformed email.
No, Fastmail accepts it, but rate limits them once I get to a certain number of servers. And Scaleway is sending that precise message there saying the sender address is not a valid RFC 5322 address. Now, when you look at the actual data that's being sent, there is actually no sender field being added at all, no sender header. So it's not that it's not valid. Scaleway is inventing it, going, oh, we were expecting something, so that's empty, and then that's not valid. It's like null is not the same thing as zero or nil.
So I don't know if that's a DMA problem because DMA and SendMail and Postfix are only going to touch the envelope. They're not going to touch the header, and the header is still going to be empty regardless of what sends that message. I mean, unless you had some mangling in your SendMail config to forcibly add it. So I don't think this is a DMA specific issue because the envelope has to have something. No mail server would accept it if it didn't.
If you don't have
you've got to have a from and a to basically, but you don't have to have a sender, and that's what's so diabolically annoying here. Is there's no option for me to set it in in DMA, and if I did, I would just set them all to root at server name or something, or my domain. That's fine. I think I'm going to look for a port that does this and give up on DMA or run postfix.
Are you lacking the envelope from?
Yeah, there's no way he could be missing the envelope from. It's not possible. It wouldn't go to anybody because it is a requirement. You have to have a from equals. So DMA is doing that. I don't think changing mail servers is going to help you. I think you would have to have. Like, you'd have to have something to add that header for you, because the header is not going to generate in those kinds of emails.
So where are we up to here? Here, DMA. I'm just going to post an example in our thing here.
Show us your DMA. If that.
Oh, DMA config is so vanilla. But I'll grab it. I'll grab it here. You see, where are we? DMA conf. Right. So I don't want to put this in the Google Doc. I guess it makes no difference, does it?
Pre-sanitize if you can.
Yeah. That's my DMA stuff, which is, if you change the host, it's the same config I've been using probably for 5+ years at least, before, when DMA were just imports. And this is the message that's being sent from cron. I'll just fix up the annoying quoting. This is from a different box. This is from my desktop because it was easiest. I need that.
Shall I mildly sanitize this?
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. Any email that doesn't come from my server is just going to get binned anyway. So it's DMA. Where's the next header begin from? I think it's like this. No, ID. Here we go. Return path. Subject. That looks about right. This is me just making a cron job that's guaranteed to fail, and therefore we'll send an email. And let's just format that as. Where's the thing that formats this as code?
I just go with 8-point courier for consistency. I can take care of that.
I just changed the font. That's cool. That's all right. Yeah. And I don't see the font here.
I'll take care of it in a sec.
I know I found it. There you go. There we go. Yeah. So there's nothing very exciting about this, but you can see from the message it's going out, it's got a from. That's legit. And that's all it needs to have. I'm not inventing anything here. This is literally what cron sends on every system around the world. And there's clearly no sender in there. So I understand these other providers going, well, there should be a sender. The answer is the RFC doesn't require it, and you're inventing it. Yeah.
The RFC doesn't require it.
Your from is not an email address.
That's true, but it doesn't have to be. So the issue is, look, if we're just being clear here, Fastmail accepts this, is totally happy, right? And Scaleway says the sender address is not a valid email address. Now, there's not a field here like sender that's empty. And so
there is in your envelope a from, and it's only set to cron daemon. It's not set to cron daemon and then inside there an email address.
Yeah.
Like in your message ID, there you see the format. And that's probably what they're tripped up by. If you fill that out as cron daemon and then in opening and greater and lesser than, root at my domain.
But that's that's different. So we're talking the error message is not your from is malformed, it's the sender address is malformed. That's a different header.
Yes, but try it and see if it changes something. Just copy and paste it into telnet.
There's no way to change any of this stuff. You can't change it in cron.
No, copy and paste the same message into telnet or OpenSSL client with StartTLS, whatever you need to do, and see what happens.
I'm sure that'll work. Yeah. The point here is, I know I could type them all manually and send them, but I need an automated solution. And what I'm saying is DMA doesn't seem to do what it needs to do here. So the sort of RFC wise, the sender header is used to identify in the message who submitted it. And that's not necessarily the same thing as the from header, which is who wrote it, if you like. So if a mail agent is sending messages on behalf of someone else, then that's the sender header versus the from.
There's the envelope and then there's the header, but the MX software does not modify the contents, including the header of the message.
Nor should it, yeah.
Right. It's going to come out pure. I think that there's got to be another problem deeper here, or it just wants it to go through some. I mean, yeah, I guess just adding something to staple a return path on it would be enough to convince it. But this is strange that they're having a problem with it, or that there's anything that changing from DMA would do here.
And Dave, I want to raise a point of order. I want to raise a point of order in that you're finding obscure edge cases, and I feel you're infringing upon my territory. I'd like you to cease and desist upon that, please.
Yeah, obscure edge cases. Yeah. On that note, I use this thing called mail hog and ports, which is super handy. So it pretends to be a mail server, and you just get to see the stuff coming in a nice little web page. Pretty handy. Yeah. So I think where we're at is technically RFC wise, this is compliant, but no one cares about that anymore. So suck it up, Dave, and use something else. But if I put something else in place here, then the envelope is still going to be incorrect because a mail server won't modify the envelope.
It will modify the envelope. It will not modify the content.
Okay, yeah. So the from, so the sender, which is empty in this case, won't be set, but it will add a from if there isn't one. That would be reasonable, I think.
Have you set the $email environment variable?
Where?
If that changes anything?
Where would I set that? I've got two things, periodic and cron. So which one are we talking about?
Whatever sends the email, if it's cron.
Yeah. They both have the same problem. So this is where I look at it and go, okay, I've got to fix it in one place. I can't fix it in both. So there's some options in periodic, but I don't think you get to send the from address.
Try setting just like you would set email to your sender address, and try if it changes something in the cron tab.
So what are you saying here? My cron tab.
If you set email to root at example.org or something in your cron tab, that should be exported as an environment variable to anything run from that cron tab. And that may trigger something in the send mail wrapper and thereby DMA to send a default, fill out that missing value.
Okay, so we're onto something here.
Because
cron does support mail from. Cron does support mail from as an environment variable. So I can fix it for cron, but I can't fix it for periodic.
Well, periodic is launched from cron, so maybe it'll transitive.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Periodic is only a shell script running as a cron job from etc cron tab.
Yeah.
The global cron tab. Which does not belong to any single user.
What do we want here? We want mail from.
You should have. That's why I asked if you filled that out.
So we're going to put mail from equals and now we need to remove all of the okay. So in theory here now we do mail failing cron. I think this sounds like a solution. So the mail from will fix it. I think that's solving that problem.
And
Can you drop that exact syntax in the chat, please?
I will when I get it working. Yep.
Great, yes. And then document it in the handbook and.
Yeah.
Michael, are you pressed for time at
Thank
the
you.
moment? Are we keeping you away from something much more fun?
Oh, there's a 1 o'clock open ZFS leadership call. So no, we're good. And these are the kind of issues that we want to kind of knock into place once and for all, rather than.
Sure.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. No, but uniquely today is not as bad as some recently, especially running up to the holidays, etc. Rest assured, I'll be vocal about such things. We're good.
you can also apparently use the full address syntax with descriptive name and then in less than email address greater than.
In special quoting or what? How would you?
No,
present
just
the-
put it. The syntax I put in chat should work if you want a
Okay.
human-friendly name and not just an email address.
Okay.
Oh,
What do
just
we
wrap
want
Because
the
you
then?
may
entire
be
thing,
forced
that
to
makes
use
sense.
the same sender email address for all your service. If you relaying authenticated through some third-party email server, you will not be able to use a different sender email address, but the descriptive part of the mail from address can include the host name of each server sending, so that it's easy to see just by if you list by sender.
Okay. So we should see cron running every minute with that. Hello, cron.
So we have to wait 50 something seconds.
No, I set it to run every minute.
Well, 50 something, meaning we wait a minute.
Also 50 seconds. Yeah. Maybe I could just restart cron.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that's something which will trip up every Unix operator eventually, that an at reboot cron job does not run at reboot, but whenever you restart cron.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that documented in the man cron page?
Yes.
Good question. It has a comment in the source code, but I don't know if it's documented in the man page. I think so.
One of the trick questions I used to ask during interviews is, you have an entry in Etsy cron tab, and it's the last entry in the file, but it doesn't seem to be running. Why not? And the answer to the question was there is no return at the end of the line.
Yeah. And it's not a valid text file, isn't it?
Cron does require that every cron line be ended with a new line, yes.
Right, so what am I looking for here? I'm looking for...
And I believe that's in the man page.
The table of special timing informations tells you that strings at something the label and meaning at reboot run once at startup of cron.
Yeah.
Or the other joke, 5-star cron job will run again.
All right, it says it's processed 3 emails, but I don't know when that was. It certainly wasn't in the last 5 minutes. All right, anyway, we're on to something here. I've just got to figure out where these emails go. I set up a special domain for them just so I didn't get my main domain polluted by garbage, just in case, which is probably a good idea. But that's definitely the answer. This mail from is the thing. Just got to figure out the right incantation to make it work. And then I think it's well worth updating the man page with that.
Any other questions for Entrenig, who very kindly gave us a whirlwind tour of awesomeness?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was great, actually. Nice to see a real world end-to-end thing instead of my Ansible scripts.
That was actually fun.
So
And
what
regarding
yes,
sorry,
Well,
regarding periodic scripts, those also support the directory underscore output setting, which will redirect everything from that directory into some file, for example, varlog weekly.log or something, which you can then forward through some other thingy, and it should just ignore it if you use the name FIFO there. So you could have something reading from a pipe and forwarding every line as it's written to the pipe.
Yeah, it starts to become too awkward. It's the trade-off of when do I just run postfix in one place. Okay, time for me to log off. Thank you, everybody, for that.
Cool, take care, Dave. Hope that helps.
I'm still bouncing
Jan,
now.
Thank you very much.
Jan, you mentioned PAM pushover. Do we care? What's it do?
That what it does, it's a little hacky shell script you can use on FreeBSD. It wasn't tested on anything else. It's a pushover .NET client as a shell script running from the PAM session, so that whenever you have a PAM login via SSH, locally, whatever, you can have this run as part of the PAM session setup. And then PAM exec will run the shell script, and the shell script will send a push notification to some poor operator's phone. Basically, someone logged into this server, and within a few seconds, you get a push notification.
That's actually very handy. Thank you.
And
Pushover is wonderful. I've used it for years.
Yep, it's great.
Where is that service? Is that something you run? It's a third-party service?
No,
it's a pay
centralized
once, use forever service.
Okay. Cool.
And it's run by an OpenBSD guy or someone associated or was associated with OpenBSD.
Unless you need more than, I think, 10 or 20,000 messages per source per month, you pay a one-time fee per type of client, basically $5 if you want Android, or another $5 if you want iOS client support, and for everything else, another basically desktop or your own homegrown client. And then, you can filter what gets delivered where. You can set up server-side quiet hours per user, and that's it.
Wait, how many messages did you say?
10,000 a month before you even
That's a lot of messages.
Before you,
I paid for the service years ago and have never reached the limit. And by years ago, I mean 5 to 7 years ago. Let me just say.
A lot of language. Cool.
It's a great service.
It's quite simple. It's just
history, record info. Yeah. At least 8 years. Sorry. At least 8 years.
So on the topic of mail serving, are there key points we haven't covered or what? And can we magically have a best practices meta package that with adequate documentation allows a mortal to get somewhere with this for those of us who have 20-something years?
So So one of the problems that we have in Armenia, being a post-Soviet country, means that almost everyone is using, and by everyone I mean the government, they're using things like WhatsApp for communication.
Right.
And if they are using mail, it means it's either a Mail.ru account of personal people, or it's a single email address, info@somegovernmentagency.am, and that's been a problem. So after doing all of this work with our current mail server, my team is organizing what we call org in a box. The idea of org in a box is that it's a shell script that you run. It asks you a single question: what is your domain? And what it does is it uses Jailer and what I have configured right now to configure the organization in a box, being LDAP, OpenSMTPD, Dovecot, RSpamD, WordPress, something for video calling. I think it's Mira Talk instead of Jitsi, and a lot of other things in a box. And we actually, like, we did think about using Linux, but we realized like maintaining Linux might be a harder problem because, like, oh, the shell script works on 12 but not on 14, or like, I don't know, it works on flying kangaroo, but not on sitting duck or something, you know, so it depends on, yeah. So going with FreeBSD was a good idea. As far as I can tell, as far as I can tell, my team is planning on releasing that sometime in April. So I'm looking forward for that one. And it will also guide the administrator, in this case, both Armenian and or English, saying, please add the following DNS record, and then it will check. And then please add the following this record, and then it will check. So it'll make sure that everything is valid.
I hope that is somewhat aggregate so you don't get WordPress with your mail server, which one's security, one's
No, it is
focused on-
aggregate. That's a good point. No, it is aggregate. Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of organizations are like, we don't care about Nextcloud. We just want WordPress and email, right? A lot of them don't care about chat. We're put
Yep.
prosody in there with LDAP support. It's like we just want video calling. So, you know, everyone to their needs.
We have a gist, Mr. Bromkamp. What is
Yeah,
that?
that's another pushover client, this time
Ah.
for Router OS as a Router OS
Oh,
script.
Nice.
okay. Let me
So
drop that in.
you run that function definition script once using their cron equivalent scheduler and
Mhm.
boot, so that it's always a global function with just the client. And then you invoke it with $pushover message equals, and then your message, and you send a push notification from your Microtech router. The problem is that they don't have a way to trigger a script when someone logs in. For that, you have to have some kind of frequently scheduled task, watch a dedicated log buffer for log messages. Like, oh, my fat filling out friend logged into a router, maybe send off a push notification and back up the configuration now.
Printer on fire. I like that.
Nope.
Brilliant.
And on topic, I wanted to say that when I started doing homebrew servers and I configured my email server and I knew nothing, and I succeeded with my old setup. This was a decade plus ago with postfix and other things. And my mentor's reaction was, it's a good thing I didn't tell you that running a mail server is hard, because you probably wouldn't have done this. And I have the same feeling these days. If we don't want people that running a mail server is hard, it's actually not. Like as soon as you can read about the niche things here and there about some DNS records and such, like it's actually not a hard process. It's a very well documented. So we should stop telling people that running your own mail server is a hard thing.
Yeah, but one slip up and your address gets blacklisted for,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
time. Oh yeah.
Your whole IP range gets wiped for a week and nobody knows what's happening. Exactly. It's not that running a mail server is hard. It's that reliably getting your messages into other people's inboxes is hard, because there's a bug bounty program for that.
And now is not the time or place, but I'm concerned about the legal ramifications of hosting mail, such that if your client is a law firm and their mail's not flowing, they might get really cranky really quickly. And that raises the broader questions of redundancy and multiple servers and what we can do more like from a data protection perspective rather than a networking perspective. Go
For
ahead.
this kind of issue, you have the really nasty problem that even if you have multiple MXs, your mail queue can still, if you have a temporarily undeliverable message in your mail queue and your mail server goes down, it will take its mail queue with it by default.
Hmm.
So, and you need some kind of redundant mail queue at that point, because yeah, that's what email is not intended for this. There's no such thing as an urgent email if you ask the specification. That's in your head. That's not in the spec.
You can
I like
attach
it.
the urgent flag if you want, but like that's just on the client side. No one's going to care about that.
Yeah, sure. You can also set a header to ask Outlook to confirm receipt of the message. And you can do that. You can also send Microsoft has a specification how to ask the receiver to please delete a message retroactively. And to report a success. Well, there's nothing requiring you to actually delete the message. You could also just put it in a special mailbox of things someone really doesn't want
Wanted
you
me
to
to
have.
delete it.
Exactly, basically. This is going to be embarrassing over us for the sender. Maybe have a look at it now.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground. Any final thoughts, questions, concerns, suggestions of other dedicated meetings like this? This one was brewing for some time.
Well, Michael, the title was mail and DNS, but we didn't cover DNS that much. Do we need a separate day
No,
for
that
running your
was
own DNS server? Or
geez, that's probably worth it, but that was a pun playing on jail and zone, so mail and DNS
Okay.
zones, just because like DMARC and friends and all the entries. But
Yeah,
what would you cover in a DNS call?
I don't know. Run
Show,
bind, sign your keys, use DNSSEC. I really don't know. There are very cool DNS records that I can tell you about, like responsible person. That's a thing for in DNS. Or did you know that there is an LOC record, location record, where you can set
Yes.
longitude and latitude? That's a cool one. I like using that. Dox me on Twitter? No. Dox me on DNS? Sure. So
show of hands
Sure,
on
that's
grunts
for
or otherwise. Is that
kinetic
worth
complaint reports, right?
using in? Complaint reports in those responsible parties through
As in, if you don't
hostile
respond to
social
your
media
abuse
platforms.
email address, I can send a kinetic reply to your abuse.
There you go.
If you're kind enough to fill it out correctly. Otherwise, that's called collateral damage.
In addition to DNS, what other topics might need some special attention periodically? I know Craig, Tony, and
Synchronizing your
Alexander
clocks.
wanted my clogs or my crocs. I'm looking at Proc
Your wall
Charms
clock.
3D printed. Wall clock.
Kind of, it's a good idea to make sure your NTP server server is actually still running.
and by the
Because-
way, CERT does run its own DNS servers.
Okay.
And hopefully with enough of funding this year, we'll run also a public DNS server for parents, so that they can set for their kids for adult content and advertisement and phishing. We got a lot of phishing. Why
Censorship
is
protection.
there so many? Yeah. The phishing thing really sucks.
For what it's worth, the time management meeting from the Beehive call several years back was one of the most amazing, and that might be a topic worth revisiting. So,
Alexander has his thumbs up, I think.
Alexander, do you have some appendage up?
Oh, I was trying to do a thumbs up emoji reaction because this I think that this is the best thing, like content filtering with DNS. Like this is so good. I always set up for old people when they're like, "Hey, like Alex, you're good with computers. I need a new computer. Will you get me one?" And I'm like, "Hey, how about you try this first?" And I just set them up Fedora with content blocking DNS, ad blocking DNS. They can't click the link that's trying to scam them if there's no link, and that's not perfect, but it's really easy and it's a hell of a lot better than anything I've seen that was like less than a 500-hour seeming setup. And I especially think that this is really important for protecting kids. I think that global birth rates are going to fall in literate places because of the internet, what it did to my generation. I know that I sure have a really short fuse. Like, not that I'm mean, but just that I'm like, hey, like, actually, I really don't need this when it comes to
So is
other
that
people.
blocking taking place on the LAN router or the workstation or somewhere else entirely?
So for old people, because they're not going to try to defeat it, I put it just in their computer.
I see.
But for children, I think the best way for parents is to put it on the router. And it is pretty easy for them to put it on the router and have that be reasonably secure.
And how are you updating that? What's the mechanism that's, or daemon or otherwise, that's performing this?
I just fire and forget.
Well, what is it you install or otherwise?
I just point the DNS to, I just look up whoever's the trendy one today of content filtering DNS or ad block filtering DNS and just point it at that. And there's massive gaps through that, like I said, but it's like really, I think it ups the situation like thousands of % in the correct direction.
Can you name one? Something actionable?
No, I don't know anything off the top of my head. In my own house, I use the threat blocking Quad 9 EDNS.
Okay.
But that doesn't have that on it. It's very rare that I have to do this.
Well, then name one. What can people do here and now?
Quad 9 does provide a separate resolver which does have parental control.
Oh, okay, that's perfect. Everybody I know who's awesome that has shared their DNS configuration is using Quad 9. So that's what I would recommend. If they have a content filtering, I did not know or forgot about that, and that's definitely probably what they should use.
Let's see.
And now for the curious kids in the audience, you can set your secure DNS resolver directly in the browser bypassing network DNS filtering. Set DNS over HTTP resolvers in about:config in Firefox, or set the secure DNS provider in Chrome.
Yeah.
And all of that censorship bullshit, on a network, or some restrictive DNS only, a captive portal in a university or something. And finally, you can access what you need to see. But it sucks as a network operator that DNS is now no longer a plaintext protocol in browsers, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Vixie has been warning us about that for 5 years. I think his presentation was during EuroBSDCon, as a matter of fact, on why DNS has been going further away from the operator and no one is listening. But there you go. That's the reality that we live in.
Yeah, that's the world we live in, by having widespread, persistent abuse against plaintext traffic. The only defense is to not have plaintext traffic.
I also feel like it might be fine, like for teenagers that are old enough to defeat this stuff, learn how to defeat this stuff and defeat this stuff. Like, that's not my target use case. Like, my target use case is like keeping ads out of the hands of people who are too old to educate them, and then also like very specifically like I know that I stumbled upon pornography in a single-digit age, and I think that that harms the development of children somehow.
Yeah, that doesn't belong in it. But at that point, they don't belong on the unfiltered net on their own.
They are like in first world countries they are.
Topic. Wrap it up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Michael, that might be a topic for someday, by the way. I mean, because a lot of my friends who are parents, I can't believe that they are parents. Their first question is, as soon as we get phones or computers, ideally for the kids, maybe we should have like parental network where like, hey, the neighborhood has its own VPN with its own Mastodon social network and its own, its own web servers, its own search engine. Kids can have their own blog and on that level. I like the idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's,
Feel
it
free
doesn't
to
sound bad.
formulate all that. I can help you formulate it, but not here and now. Just think of, what are we trying to solve? What exists, what's missing, and all the classic make stuff happen challenges. Okay?
Yeah.
Sad
Instead of org in a box, it's a family in a box,
Well, thank you, everyone. Who would like the honors?
Me.
Okay, you've earned it. Take care.
Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.